I talked to people who didn't understand Bitcoin at all, were maybe not even fintech investors, so they didn't care about this. So why would they invest in such a niche fintech thing if they don't even invest in fintech at all?
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Julian, a very warm welcome back to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here again.
Hey Sylvan, thank you very much. It's really my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to be here again.
Since we last spoke, we were talking about, the fundraising special episodes that we did together with the Startup Ticker. And there's so much that happened over the past, 2 years since we last spoke. So, of course, we want to talk about all these amazing developments. But before, we want to properly introduce you. You're the co-founder and CEO at Relai, the world's easiest Bitcoin investing app. And before you actually jumped into the world of cryptocurrencies, of Bitcoin, you actually finished your studies with a bachelor's degree in not only business administration, but also in psychology. So I wonder, that's quite an unusual background. In what way has that shaped you or even helped you to become an entrepreneur afterwards?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people say that this is an unusual combination. For me, it was always a very logical combination, actually. And there's also this quote that says 50% of business is psychology. Because if you think about it, what is business? It's really people coming together, collaborating to achieve a goal, right? Make money, make the world a better place, develop innovative technologies, stuff like that. But it's always about people getting together and collaborating, and that's most of the to manage this. You basically need to be a psychologist, or at least it helps if you are a psychologist.
So if you look at it that way, then psychology should be part of the business education.
Oh hell yeah, 50% of it should be psychology.
So you then ended up in the crypto space. So originally, your first walking steps in the crypto space, what actually drew you to that space? When did you first encounter that there's a whole new crypto world forming out there?
Yeah, that's funny that I was actually in my, first year, or at least in my bachelor's of my psychology studies, and my minor was business administration. So I was always already, interested in investing and finance and stuff like that, but not in technology at all. Actually, the only lecture that I ever failed in university was business informatics. So everything that was kind of technology related, I sucked in, really. But I had this nerd friend who was the opposite. He was a very tech guy. He studied computer science, and we would hang around a lot. He's a friend, from long time ago. I know him from forever. And so we hung out, and it was 2015, I remember, and he showed me Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that he invested in. And he just explained, these are nice technologies where you can transfer money without ever touching a bank or even, any third party, just over the internet. And, it's basically internet money, which is pretty cool. And it goes up and down in price. And I was like, my trading brain kicked in. And I was like, we could actually trade and invest in that kind of stuff. And so I ended up buying one Bitcoin through him because it was too complicated for me as a non-tech guy. That's also why, in the end, I ended up founding a company that makes it easier for people who don't know about finance and technology to invest in Bitcoin. But back then, it was for me too complicated. And so I told him, I gave you the cash, I gave you $500 bills, and you can you give me the Bitcoin. And he was then just buying the Bitcoin and holding it for me. And then it went up 10% or something, and I told him sell again. It was like he was like my broker, sell again. I want these $50. So I earned $50, and I thought I'm fucking the most intelligent guy in the room. Which obviously, in hindsight, I was not, because now it did 100x in terms of value from there. But that was my first baby steps into Bitcoin.
Wow, that's super interesting. And then you eventually actually solved your own problem by making Bitcoin investing easier. Then entrepreneurship was basically your way to get there, to make that a reality. What was really the motivator to become an entrepreneur in the first place? Did you have any entrepreneurs in the family, or why was that the right way for you to pursue?
Don't really have entrepreneurs in my family. I would say my family is more like kind of creative and like artist family background, but not entrepreneurial at all. Also, my mom recently at an award show, she had to do a little video interview with the moderator, and she said in front of Hallestadion, in front of the whole audience, she said, because she didn't know that it actually would be shown in front of the whole audience live at the award show. So what she said to the interviewer is, "Oh, I thought my son will be everything, an artist or, a creative or maybe even a politician or something, but never would I have guessed he's becoming an entrepreneur." So no, I don't know where this is coming from, but I always had the pleasure to do things myself, to try to drive things forward myself and kind of take a leadership position and stuff. But what really drew me to entrepreneurship was a lecture actually at university in my master's. My master's, then I was focusing on business administration fully. Yeah. And I had this lecture about being an entrepreneur. And then it showed really the pros and cons of being an entrepreneur, like the processes, like how it works, and everything about being an entrepreneur. And that really inspired me. So after this, I decided to take a half a year off, or like do a half a year exchange semester in Silicon Valley, to breathe some more entrepreneurial air. And then I came back and it was clear I need to do something myself. And since I started 3 businesses, actually. This is the 3rd one. Amazing.
I mean, you really found your path basically thanks to that university course.
Yep. That was certainly one big factor of it. And also the person that gave this course, it's Professor Dr. Philipp Sieger. He was very instrumental in that and very inspirational in that as well, for sure.
Now, of course, we're all curious, what were the first 2 businesses that you did?
So the first was Bravis. It still exists. Bravis is a consulting company that I founded with 2 of my friends. So the 3 of us, it was basically a failure. So we didn't really take off. We had some. So what we try to do is educate and advise financial service providers like the incumbent banks and asset managers in this whole crypto finance and blockchain and Bitcoin topic. We started it beginning of 2018, where, the whole bubble popped and there was the crypto winter, and all the incumbent finance guy thought, I was right. Okay, this whole thing failed.
Probably not the best timing.
The worst timing. And also we were like 24, 25 young guys who wanted to tell the big bankers in the suits how to do business, and that this is actually the next big thing. You can imagine. Didn't really work out well. We had some interesting projects with ING, for example, a very big bank, or Swissquote, the Swiss online bank, or Valiant, another local Bernese bank. Some interesting projects, but it didn't really take off as a business. Yeah. But it still exists, and we do some projects here and there. And then out of this, the CCFE was created. So this is the Certified Crypto Finance Expert. It's an education product where we do education mainly online and offline courses about this for, again, bankers. But this really took off. So this is like the leading crypto finance training now in Switzerland. We had more than 300 participants from, the big banks like UBS, Credit Suisse, PostFinance, even Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank from Germany. So this is really going great, but without really me as I'm not operationally involved anymore. But it's also what I did before. But now, obviously, Relai, as you said, the world's easiest Bitcoin app is my main project. Yeah.
And you actually founded Relai, the company, in 2019, but you already started working and testing around with the idea 1 year earlier in 2018. So we heard you wanted to solve your own problem to make Bitcoin investing easier. Can you walk us through the process of how you then went from this idea, you identified your own problem, to test the idea and to actually validate it to a certain degree?
Yeah, certainly happy to do that. And I will also update the time frame because, so I think you said we saw each other 2 years ago. I don't think so. That's quite true because I think it was 1 year ago.
Also possible, yeah.
And also the company, we didn't found it until October 2020.
Okay.
And that was last year, if I remember correctly. So actually what happened was between these 2015, where I bought my first Bitcoin, but also sold it again, for 2 years, I was not really involved in this topic, always, kind of by the side. Also, a fun story is that 2016, when Ethereum launched, the second biggest cryptocurrency that's now worth a couple of billions, and one ETH is actually 4.5k Swiss francs, something like that. They did their ICO at 1 Swiss francs per coin, and I wanted to participate again. And again, I failed because it was technically too complicated. So I read articles about it and stuff, and I took, an afternoon trying to figure it out, how I can buy some 500-600 coins. That was the plan, but it was just too hard and too complicated. So I left it alone. Obviously now this would have been a good deal. But anyway, then in 2017, when this whole thing still was there, and then when this big bubble came, that's where I thought, okay, I really need to dig deeper in that, because it's really interesting and it could potentially, really turn the financial system around as we know it now. So that's what I did. I deep dived at the beginning of 2017 and got really convinced and really said, okay, I need to go all in on this. I really want to make this my main profession as well. And so that's where it all started, kind of the brainstorming. What could we do in this? It's a big finding process, personal process, but also, finding good business opportunities. So that's also when I went to to do the exchange semester, end of second half of 2017, and then beginning 2018 came back, founded Brevis, then founded CCFE, and then end of 2018 the idea of Relai already popped up. That's when I had the kind of idea, end of 2018, and then the whole 2019, the whole year was basically experimenting, trying it out, collaborating with different people. Some came, some went. The only one that stayed was my co-founder, CTO, Adam. And then, we did startup competitions, challenges, hackathons, stuff like that, to really validate and prove the idea and to build a prototype and have some first test users, have some first feedbacks, from juries and some first coaches and stuff like that. And then end of 2019, we thought, okay, we are ready with a prototype. It seems the concept seems to work, the technology, the legal aspect, also the business aspect, and we had an idea how to make money, and they had first customers that were interested. So we thought we have a good case that can be funded. Since up to then, we did all, self-funded. We didn't really spend money, and we still had our jobs, and so it was more a hobby. And then end of 2019, we wanted to make a project out of this hobby, so we needed some money. We thought it's going to be easy. It was not easy at all. So it took me like 3, 4, 5 even months to raise our first 20K. Because we really didn't have any money. Adam was already, had his baby coming up, and I was, young student, basically failed entrepreneur by then, so I didn't really have money as well. So the first 20K took me like 4 or 5 months, but eventually we found someone that we met at one of these startup challenges, competitions. That was with a friend of his, the first angel investor, and gave us these 20K, with which we developed the whole application and the whole community around it, and the whole, social media and website presence and everything within 3 months, from April to June. And 1st of July 2020, we launched the app.
Wow. I have so many follow-up questions for you. So first one, let's focus on that investment part. Why was it so difficult for you to raise even 20K? That doesn't sound like too much. Was that the missing track record, or did nobody want to believe in crypto and Bitcoin especially? What do you think was the main reason why it was so difficult for you to raise funds?
Yeah, in hindsight, I think certainly the missing track record is one aspect, because I was young. I was 25, 26. I didn't really have anything to show except, a master's degree, but no real entrepreneurial or even professional experience. I worked a little bit in banking, a little bit in management consulting, but I was not, the big guy yet at all in any area. That was certainly a part. I think the biggest aspect is that we talked also to the wrong people. So I had more than 100 discussions with different angel investors, but mostly with the wrong ones. I think that was my biggest problem, or my biggest learning then also, because I talked to people who didn't understand Bitcoin at all, were maybe not even fintech investors, so they didn't care about this. So why would they invest in such a niche fintech thing if they don't even invest in fintech at all? So I think most of the people didn't really understand our value proposition, but I kept on talking to these people, and they just from the beginning said, no, it's not going to work. But also, just I think because it is actually very hard in Switzerland still at this early stage, pre-seed stage, before you actually have a live product with first paying customers to raise funds. It's still very, I observed this with some projects, some startup projects now as well, that they have good ideas, they have a good first team, but before you actually have a product that is live and has some first paying customers, it's so hard to even get, very, very, very small checks. And that was also what we experienced. So I think it was a combination between talking to the wrong people and just being so early without having a track record.
What would you do differently today to avoid that situation? Of course, selecting different investors, but also would you try to wait longer until you raise funds to already have a functioning product live with first customers? Or what would you do differently if you were raising funds today?
If you have the situation, the personal financial situation that allows this, yes. I would not care about fundraising until I have my first MVP on the market and my first paying customers. But because this unlocks basically so many first conversations with interesting investors. So I would not, invest these 4 to 5 months trying to get 20K. I would invest this in time of, building the product and getting it live. Because then, even when we went live, even investors started to approach us. It's so much different, so much easier once you've proven you can actually bring something live and get some revenue, first revenue. So I would definitely do that, but this was not an option because I was really broke.
Sure.
And also, this was not an option, so we had to go through this. But I would do it differently if I can. If you cannot, then what I would do differently is certainly do my homework and research and, really go through, what are the interesting angel investors for me? So what are the angel investors that invest in fintech? And all the others I would just not care about for this moment. And then in fintech, what are the investors that maybe already have some investments in crypto, Bitcoin projects and really understand this and are a big fan of this? And then I would only talk to them and try to just catch one of them, because they usually have very good networks as well, and they can then help you to get some others on board. And that's what we did afterwards. I think very well. Once we had the first couple of people in our network that invested in us, then to leverage their network to get more investors. I think that's what we did really well. We should have done this right at the beginning.
And you also mentioned the validation process. So you first validated that as part of a hackathon that you attended together with your co-founder. I just wonder, how did you validate the idea? How did you really test it to then be certain, hey, this is actually worth investing more time and eventually also money in?
So as said, the participation in those hackathons and competitions were very fruitful to that, because you get a lot of feedback from these coaches and from the jury as well. You get a lot of feedback how you can do things differently. And then I would say, just with whatever you have, whatever stage your product is in, from where it is only a couple of slides, PowerPoint slides, to where it is maybe a first mock-up, to where it becomes a proof of concept in kind of a clickable thing that. And then once it's an MVP that is still in beta, so not live, but still people can already test it with money. So this was always our approach to whatever we have, show it to people, and then do problem and solution interviews. So problem interviews where we did not show what we have, to ask them, to talk about them, about the problem. Like, do you have problems investing in Bitcoin? And how did you solve it so far?
Right.
How would you like to change this process? What didn't you like about this process? How would you like to solve it? And so it's just to get understanding of what the problem is, what are the pain points of our users, and what would they like to do differently, and to empathize with them, like to really feel their pain. So these problem interviews, and then also solution interviews where, okay, cool, we have this now. It's really crappy yet, but please try it out and say what do you like about it and what would you change about it. And then they try it out, they give you feedback. People actually like to do this. Cool. And it gives you the best validation information that you can get at every level. You know, we then, once we were live, we did the same. We did this with 10 people in a Telegram group. When we just started coding it, we did it with, at the end, before we released the first version, we did it with maybe 100 people in this Telegram group. Yeah. Then we launched it, we were thousands of people, but we still got these groups where people give us feedback every day. Now we just, after 1.5 years, we did a relaunch, like a couple of days ago. It's still the same. Now it's 10,000 of people, but they still give us feedback. And obviously the product is on a higher level, but we still take this feedback to move forward, to validate what is working and what not.
That's really cool. And it almost sounds easy when you describe it that way, but I could imagine there were also some tough moments or some really hard to digest feedbacks that you must have received. No?
Oh yeah, always. Still now. It's very hard. It's a very hard job as well. I remember at the beginning that was basically myself, I got all this direct feedback, and it really hurts, you know, if you work on something for months and years, and then the feedback is, this is bullshit, like, this doesn't work, and fucking, you know, people get angry because they would like to do something, they would like the app to do a job that it then fails to do, and they get angry and they get to you. So and now and then it was Adam as well, my CTO, who got all the feedback, and he got angry and frustrated. Now we have a product manager that has the same. But it's very hard. Even now we relaunched this app. We had professional designers working on it, and it's really a next level experience now. But even now people say, you know, I liked the app before, it had more blue. I missed the blue, now it's all white. I don't want to use it anymore. And this hurts so much because you work like your ass off to do it. But you can never, it's never perfect for everybody. So you always have this kind of negative feedbacks. The art then is really to take this feedback and make and improve the app.
I mean, at the end, you also have to make it your product. You have to decide what's right and what's not right. So thank you for the feedback, but at the end, you and your team have to decide what the product should be, what it should be able to do, and what it should look like, right?
Exactly. And that's that also requires a lot of reliance, you know, on and a lot of, no, reliance is not the right word, but like you need to be able to take this stress and this frustration.
Embrace the suck.
That's it.
So to speak. Another thing I also want to talk about, your pitch deck is actually publicly available on your website, your first pitch deck. And there you say that the financial system is broken. So I would also like to talk a bit about that topic. So why do you think the current financial system is broken?
Well, it's broken for savers. So, you know, everybody wants to save money, right? For the future, for some goals, you wanna buy a house at one point, or you just wanna have some money that you can use if you have an emergency or whatever. Yeah. The saving is a basic human need, and so how do people save now? And that's showing why the system is broken. 2/3 of Swiss people, who are known to save a lot, put their savings, and it's like 20% of their income, so it's a lot. Put the savings to a savings account at a bank. They don't invest it in anything. They just leave it there. So what happened in the 80s, for example, or let's say beginning of the 90s, you got actually an interest rate there. You had like
a lot.
8% or something. So this really made a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
You put as much money as you can on your savings account. You leave it there. You get interest and interest of interest. So great. Compound interest, you make money by just leaving the money there, right? Great. But we're not in the 90s anymore. With both of us probably have, we were born beginning of the 90s. That this worked then. Now, what happens if you leave your money on your savings account is you have negative interest rates, or zero or negative interest rate, depending on the amount, and you have inflation. So when we were born 30 years ago, this was the last highest inflation that we saw. It was about 6% for the US dollar, the leading currency in the world. But you had 8% of interest. So you would still be in the green. Okay, you could still save. So then the system was still okay. 30 years later now, we have again 6% of US dollar inflation now, but we have negative interest rates. So the gap is you're actually in the blood red every year. So if you just leave your money there, it's just the savers are losing money basically every day.
You lose a lot of your purchasing power in the future.
That's it. So you basically work, put money aside, and this money shrinks. So that's why I think for savers, the financial system is really broken, and it's not only me. You know, I just talked to a lot of also traditional financial experts. You know, professors, top bankers and stuff about the economists about this, because I want to make sure that I'm not, you know, trying to sell some things that I don't really understand. Because once you're in this Bitcoin bubble, then the Bitcoin seems to solve every problem in the world, which is not true. So I try to think out of the box and talk to people who are not into this Bitcoin bubble as I am, but they really also confirm this. And I think more and more people understand this as it's not gonna work forever like this. If we just print money and money inflates 6% inflation, but no interest rate, then you can't save anymore. So people need an alternative.
Yeah. So I think that's a very strong statement why it's not a good idea to just leave your cash on your bank account. You actually lose your future purchasing power. So you probably need to invest it. You can invest it in gold, in stocks, ETFs, or in Bitcoin. Why do you think is Bitcoin sort of an investment vehicle that everybody should consider? Or what does it make a better investment vehicle than gold or ETFs?
Yeah. So the thing with Bitcoin is it's scarce. Whenever something is truly scarce, and Bitcoin is the scarcest thing that exists basically in the universe, I would even say. Because it's not only scarce, it's actually fixed. It's written in the code, in the open source code that is run and decided upon by millions of people. So it's decentralized, it's open source, not just one person or one institution can change it. Like, for example, how many US dollar we have is decided by the federal banks or the central banks. They decide how much money is floating around. They're printing money like crazy. That's why we have inflation. You cannot do that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is fixed. What do we know as other assets that are scarce? For example, gold. That's why it's the store of value asset for thousands of years, because it's scarce and because it's independent of governments and central banks. Same with Bitcoin. It's just digital. So it's kind of the next level savings technology. It's also called digital gold or gold 2.0 because it's a better gold, but it has the same characteristics why gold is so valuable and goes up in value over time is because it's independent and it's because it's scarce. But gold, they always find more gold in the world, and maybe there's even more gold on other planets. You don't know. So it's kind of scarce. There's not gonna be plenty more of it. Like you cannot just triple and tenfold the amount like you can with the USD. That's why gold is good, but Bitcoin is even better because it's really, really scarce and fixed. There will only be 20 million Bitcoins ever, not more. And so if you have an asset that is really scarce and independent, so nobody can change this scarcity, then what happens to the price? If you have price is a function of demand and supply. So if you have a fixed supply, what is the demand? Depending on the demand, and if we think the demand is growing because people are looking for a hard asset to save their money that does not devalue, then the demand is going up, so the price will go up. Right? This is kind of the easy story, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer to believe that this is going to be the way next generations are saving their money. Right now, we have 1% of the world that is investing or storing their value in Bitcoin only. It's only just the beginning, and we can see clearly the last 10 years has been crazy. The demand went up a lot. If you ask Generation Y or Z, like millennials and Generation Z, 50% to 75% of them say they will invest in Bitcoin once they grow old. In 10 to 20 years, more of half of the whole money will be controlled by these people. Institutions will be led by them. They will inherit money. And where will they invest it in? They will not invest it in physical gold. They invest maybe in some stocks and bonds and stuff like that, but also a lot they will invest it in digital gold. So Bitcoin, supply and demand. Supply, it's fixed. It's the scarcest that we have ever known. Demand is going up, so price is going up, and that's why we think it's the best savings technology you can invest in now.
Today's episode is brought to you by Relai. Relai is a Bitcoin-only investment app from Switzerland, available on Android and iOS, that gives everyone an easy and secure way to invest in Bitcoin with minimal barriers to entry. No deposit, KYC verification, or registration is required. After you download the app, just choose the amount of euros or Swiss francs you want to invest and make the payment using a bank transfer. That's it. You can start with as little as 10 euros or Swiss franc and pay 0% transaction fees until the end of 2021. Alternatively, you can automate this process by starting a weekly or monthly savings plan and buy Bitcoin at regular intervals. To learn more, head over to relay.ch/ambassadors/Swisspreneur and buy Bitcoin with Relai, Europe's easiest Bitcoin investment app. There are also, of course, critiques towards the Bitcoin as a store of value. They might say there is no intrinsic value as you have with gold because you could use that to produce jewelry, for example. And it's also sort of a belief system. Like as long as people believe that there's value in it, the price will go up because there will be demand. Yeah. But if inflation drops again, you might have, probably not that soon, but maybe later, you'll have more interest rate on your bank account. What would then happen? Do you think that this is a sustainable, Bitcoin investment to store the value, or will that also eventually drop to below, 40, 30,000 per Bitcoin again in the future?
I don't think so. I think this is gradually going up because it is a belief system. I agree. Like money. Money is a myth that people believe in.
It's paper, basically.
Like nations, like companies. It's a myth. Right now, people believe in the US dollar having value. That's why they hold their savings in that. But it always depends on what you believe in, right? So I agree it's a belief system, but I think it has good reasons why people believe in it. Because it has the best characteristics and it is designed for only that, storing value. It's the easiest thing to store and transfer value in a digital world. And that's why so many people believe in it. So that's why I also think more and more people will believe it and keep believing in it. And that's why it will go up. But obviously, I think the biggest threat to Bitcoin not succeeding is actually if we manage to fix the financial system again.
That's a fun thing to say.
Right. That's not going to happen, in my opinion. But if that's great. I mean, if we had no problem, then we would not need Bitcoin.
Sure. That's a very interesting take. So I'll let people reflect on that on their own so they can make their own judgment. So you also mentioned at the beginning that, the process was so difficult, so complicated to actually invest into Bitcoin. Can you talk to us how you actually simplify that with Relai and why you make it or how you make it so easy to invest into Bitcoin?
So usually we also get competition, right? So it is getting a lot easier now these days. When I started thinking about this, it was really, the process was, okay, you want to invest in Bitcoin, you need to find an exchange somewhere, and then you create an account, and then you need to get verified. So you need to upload a lot of documents, all your personal information, and you type it all in, and then it gets checked. Usually took a couple of days, and then you are verified, so you can wire money. you wire money, you need to wait until it's there. With the traditional banking system, it takes a couple of time. And then when it's there, you exchange it into Bitcoin, and then you can imagine, you have these charts and stop loss and market orders. So it's basically trading, but for a lot of people, 90% of the people don't really trade. They're not traders. So for them, it's very complicated. So if you manage to do that, you have the Bitcoin on the exchange where you don't want to leave it because it's not safe, because they hold your money, and if they get hacked, the money is gone.
Yeah.
And so you need to withdraw it to a wallet. You need to create the wallet first. There's so many apps you can use. Okay, you find a wallet, then you have to store your private key. This is another quite a cumbersome process. And so this whole process back then took 1 to 2 weeks, and 2-3 different service providers. For a non-tech, non-finance person, this was just way too much to just invest a couple of bucks.
You wouldn't go through all that hassle.
You did not want to do, and that's also my experience that I made, because I was always the Bitcoin guy, right? So people ask me, so where can I buy Bitcoin? What's the easiest way? And I had to tell them, look, the easiest way is this, and then 9 out of 10 said, I'm not going to go through this.
Too complicated. The hurdles are too high.
Exactly. And how we solve it is that we say, okay, there needs to be a way. If we want everybody to have access to this best savings technology, there needs to be a way where people can download an app and within 1 minute get onboarded without doing any registration, verification whatsoever. They don't need to wire money to deposit before they can trade or whatever. They really need to be set up within 1 minute and be able to buy their first Bitcoin from $10 already, so a very low amount. And then, they also want to do other things. They want to do buy, but also sell directly from their bank account without setting up any new things. They also want to have an automatic savings plan. Maybe if they decide, okay, this is a cool thing, I really want to save some of my money in Bitcoin, they can set up a recurring order with their bank, $50 a week, for example, and then just let it flow. Yeah. And obviously they also want to have something where they can send, receive, and store their Bitcoin all out of one hand. So this is basically Relai. You download the app. When you start it, it creates a Bitcoin wallet for you without you doing anything and without doing any registration. We don't even need to know your name. You don't need to upload any documents, nothing. Within 1 minute, from $10 directly from your bank account, you can buy, sell, save, store, send, receive, pay with your Bitcoin, everything out of one very, very simple app.
That's amazing. Simplicity wins, I often hear, and that definitely seems to be the case here.
Absolutely, that's the goal, yeah.
How does your business model look like? I mean, at the end, you're a company, you have VC investors on board now, you also need to make money. So what's your business model?
Right now, it's as simple as the app. So we just take a transaction fee. It used to be 3%, which is quite high, but people were willing to pay this. So 3% would go to us. So you invest $100, you get $97 in Bitcoin, the rest goes to us. Now that we have, as you said, big investors on board, and we're able to get our own broker license and build our own broker in-house, we can actually reduce the fees. So right now, the fees until end of the year are actually 0%, but obviously after that, it will be as low as 1%, which is then quite competitive again, also to other crypto trading companies and also to traditional, stock investing, whatever trading. So 1% transaction fee, that's our only business model so far. We just live off that. But the plan is also to go from a revenue that is only from transaction-based revenue to subscription-based revenue, where people can actually just pay, $10-15 a month as they are used to it with their Netflix, with their Spotify, whatever subscription, and then can use, the app for free without any other charges. So basically, people will be able to decide either I do some transactions and they Relai takes the transaction cut, or they say, look, I want the all-in flat package, no fees, but just these $10-15 a month.
However, in all cases, you probably need quite high volumes to build a sustainable and also very profitable business case. Is that a big challenge for you?
Yeah, right now with this transaction-based revenue model, obviously this is the biggest challenge. The only thing that counts from a business perspective is to get volume, because that's how we make money. So that's actually the biggest challenge, because the more we can grow in volume, sustainable volume as well.
Sure. Because it also costs to acquire the volume, right?
Exactly. To acquire the volume costs, and it depends a lot on the stickiness of the product. Like how long do people stay with the product? If they come and invest, for 1 or 2 months, that's great. But then if they leave again, this is a problem. You need to have recurring volume. So that's why we are happy that a lot of our users do a savings plan and they just shoot and forget. So that's great because it's a recurring value for us. It also, the volume depends a lot on how the Bitcoin market goes. We have been through some different cycles now in these 1.5 years. It's a short term, but it's a long term in Bitcoin history, because it's more than 1/10 of Bitcoin existence that we are now alive. And we've seen everything from crypto winter, where basically no one really cared about investing in Bitcoin, to end of last year when we had a huge rally from November to January, where Bitcoin I think went from 10K to like 50K or something. And that's where all the people coming in, without any marketing, people just go crazy and buy so many Bitcoin. And that's why we had record volumes. But so it's quite volatile. As Bitcoin itself, also our volume is very volatile. That's why it's instrumental to also get into this subscription-based revenue as well.
And how do you actually acquire new clients today? Because that's the key to increase the volume. You also made a key hire there to support you on the customer acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started with basically no real marketing. We just did a lot of community and social media, very organic. Some posts here and there, and we built and nurture a community online. That was great to start with. We had a great small but intense fan base. And then next step was to build a referral program, because word of mouth was really still is and always was a very key driver of new customers and volume. So we did that end of last year, and it came together with a bull run in the Bitcoin market. So that was great.
Good timing.
Good timing, and a great driver of growth. And then, as you said, we did a great hire lately with Imo Babic, who is the ex-CMO, is now our CMO. And was the ex-CMO of Bitpanda for 2 years, and he brought them from a couple of 100,000 app downloads to more than 1 million app downloads, and he built a big marketing team there. And Bitpanda is really the biggest crypto exchange in Europe. It's basically the Coinbase of Europe with a 4 billion valuation, so it's a huge animal. And he basically brought them to where they are now in terms of marketing, in my opinion. So he's a very undervalued but a very, very great guy. So we managed to get him, and obviously now everything gets very professional. We stick to the organic strategies, but professionalize them a lot. So a lot of content marketing, great social media management, and SEO, stuff like that is really going to the next level now. Also, the referral program will be adapted a little bit and pushed a lot on different communities. Then we start heavily to work with influencers now, YouTubers, bloggers, podcasters, Twitter guys. We have our own podcast as well that we push more. So a lot with, influencers and credibility holders. And obviously then, last but not least, paid advertisement. Yeah. So on all these different channels, Google ads, Apple and Play Store, the App Store ads that you can run, and then obviously on all the different social media platforms, just paid advertising, where you try to invest in a smart way to get a low customer acquisition cost, to get people downloading your app and using your app for a small paid fee, sponsored ads. These are basically and PR as well. We work more with PR now. Trying to get interviews and appearances in media a lot. That's also a big driver, and I think this all plays together very well. And if it's orchestrated, this whole marketing strategy, if it's orchestrated by a super champion like Imo, this is the best you can get.
I would say the future looks very bright for you now.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. It all really depends also how Bitcoin goes,
of course,
because you never know when the next 1 year crypto bear market is coming, crypto winter, and if that happens, you can really do whatever you want. You're not gonna go crazy. But yeah, there are a lot of external factors as well, but I would also say from an internal point of view, we are very well positioned for sure.
The last point in terms of challenges that I also want to talk about is the broker license that you briefly mentioned before. That was probably the biggest challenge that you faced so far, after going live. Why is that broker license so important to you, despite just the fee reduction that made it possible, and how they actually managed the process? Because as a small startup, to obtain your own broker license, I can imagine that's a challenging and a quite demanding process, I would say.
Yeah, it was a wild ride, but certainly an interesting project. So we had the need for that. We felt the need for that when we started to grow, from just an experiment and a small MVP to actually a business with recurring customers that want to be satisfied and some volume and some revenue that we wanted to uphold. So, and then we had just limitations working with an external broker, because you can imagine this broker is not working for us only. They obviously have 10, 20, 30 customers as we are, and all these customers have different needs. And so from a technical point of view, for a lot of the features that we wanted to develop, or for a lot of improvements that we wanted to make, we were very limited. So this broker was a bottleneck technically. And then also legally and business-wise, it was a problem, because actually what we did is through the app, we just forwarded the users to the broker, and actually they paid us a commission to drive volume to them. So we were we were fully dependent on this broker, and the broker actually owned. So Bitty, it was the company. They actually owned the customer. They had the actual relationship, not the relationship with that. That's what we had, the relationship in the real world, but legally and business wise, they had the contract with them. So they could also just kick us out and put their own app, for example, and then that was it. So we didn't own the customer. It's very important from a legal and business point of view. And then also, as you already said, from a financial point of view, they just took 1% of everything. And they gave us back whatever is left. We would never have had the flexibility to, for example, right now, as we speak, we have a zero fee promotion campaign. We were not able to do this before because we didn't have the power on the fees, because we had to pay these 1%, and they obviously would not do these promo stuff for us. So now we're fully flexible on that. And also just plain make or buy decision. At one point, this 1% becomes such a high number. If you have millions and millions of volume per year, and even 10 millions, like we have yearly volumes in 2-digit millions, so now this 1% actually becomes to a high number where you need to ask yourself, is it cheaper to make this ourselves? Of course. And this is now the case, and certainly if we grow another 5 to 10x, it is a no-brainer. So we need to do this ourselves to be able to earn more and or make the prices low, keep the prices low for our customers.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, not only from a financial but also from the strategic perspective that you applied there.
Absolutely, and that was actually the biggest strategic alignment that we had to do, or we were very lucky that we did it with our lead investor, Relai. That they said we were not 100% clear now. We were clear that we should do this, but we were not clear yet that we should do it already now, basically. Starting beginning of this year, but Relai was interested, but they said, this is a key strategic, in our view, this is a key strategic element that you need to insource this as soon as possible. And actually, even based on that, the amount that we raised was higher than, because they advised us you need to squeeze in this project now. Yeah. The earlier the better.
And that's also cool, because you now brought the traction to the table, and that makes for an amazing fundraising story where you say, we need your 2.5 million that you raised in the Series A to actually get our own brokerage license, build that in-house to be strategically independent and get positioned for more growth.
Exactly.
That's perfect as a fundraising story.
Yeah, exactly. And then capture the whole value without any partner dependencies and stuff.
So that's actually quite interesting, because then by doing the investment and enabling you to do that, of course, if the plan works out and you can then also further grow and successfully implement the broker project, you actually already built a more valuable company. So that's like a no-brainer from the VC perspective. Amazing.
Yeah, but interestingly, and that really shows the experience and just the vision, the vision and the talent probably these guys have. Like Red Alpine is really an amazing VC, because they were by far the only ones who actually, thought about that. It's so in hindsight, it's a no-brainer, as you say, but it was so with so much foresight that they did that. We talked with so many VCs, but none of them were so clear in that, in that regard. And it was really a very strategically valuable move. Yeah,
smart move, Red Alpine.
Yeah.
So now you have more than 45,000 app downloads, a total of more than 20 million invested. What is next for you? What are your plans for the future? Do you want to add any additional cryptocurrencies to your offering?
No, we're not going to add any other cryptocurrencies, just because of the reason that, as said, we want to be a savings app. We want to promote saving, and there's no real point for us in promoting these other coins, because most of them, actually all of them, are, this is betting and speculation and even gambling. Some of them will go up a lot, but most of them is actually it's high risk. Most of them will die. And also, if you look back 5 years, the top 20 coins right now, around 3, I think, of them are still around in the top 20. All the others are gone. So it's a highly speculative space out there when it comes to crypto. And it's actually, you can compare it to venture capital investing. There's so many startups out there. If you're not a qualified investor, there's no real point in trying to pick the right ones, and find the next Facebook or something. Because if you invest in 10 of them, 9 of them will die. And, so it's high risk. We want to refrain from that. We really want to offer the best savings technology that we had that we have in this century, basically, and this is Bitcoin. And so there's no point in making the app more complicated with these other cryptocurrencies. And that's why we stick to Bitcoin. And what's up next for us is so now we have this broker, we had this app relaunch. Obviously, we try to show that this is gaining more traction now. We also, as we are now our own broker, which is also important, is that we can do KYC, AML, and so the whole registration process now for people who want to invest more. So right now, 1K per day and 100K per year is the limit if you don't do KYC, AML. And then if you want to invest more, and we have quite some demand from users there, then you can just do a very short KYC process. Nowadays, this takes 1 minute in the app with a couple of clicks, and then you're done. You're verified, and then you can go up to 100K in trading. And also, what we can do is serve even higher amounts. So we also get we get some demand from big Bitcoin whales that want to sell a couple of dozens of Bitcoin, stuff like that. And they obviously don't want to do this through an app, but they want to do this through an organization that is regulated, that they can trust. They have the expertise and the network in Bitcoin and their reputation and everything. So they also do this with us. So this KYC is up next. And then what's really important is the most demanded feature of our customers is additional payment methods. So beginning of next year, in 2-3 months from now, we should be ready to launch additional payment methods. So you can basically pay with whatever you want. Right now, you just send us money via bank transfer. It's easy, it's cheap, so that's fine. But people also want to use Twint here in Switzerland,
of course,
or credit card, PayPal, and the rest of Europe are the most demanded payment option. So we will implement this as well, so that it's even faster and even simpler and even more convenient to buy the Bitcoin. So that's always our goal, right? Strategically, from a fundraising point of view as well, if we look next year, there will be another funding round next year for sure. We're looking to raise a bigger amount, a really big amount for Swiss. For
what do you have in mind?
Actually, I'm thinking. I'm just throwing out numbers here, but I'm thinking about a round of 20 million at a 100 million valuation, something like that. So that's what I dream about at night. Let's see whether we can, because there are some milestones that we need to hit before we actually qualify for such a round, and this will need to happen very fast now.
What is the most important milestone for you in order to be able to actually raise that amount?
In my opinion, what we need to do is to a couple of X the volume that we have and the users that we have now. So we need to show that we can actually get into a next level of traction, at least, double or triple what we do now, so that we can really show, hey, with this relaunch, with this team that we've built, with this license, with this setup, we can really grow to astronomical levels. And then ideally in Q1, we would even already make the cut to cash flow, to be cash flow positive. And if we multiply what we have now, then this is already as well given, right? So we have a certain burn rate now, which is not too high. It's quite high, but it's not too high as well, because we're very lean with only quote unquote 15 people and not a lot of other spending. So, and it's actually in sight for us to grow to a level until Q1 next year that we actually have around break even or even earn more that we spend per month. That would obviously, those two elements would be ideal to achieve before we go out fundraising, because then the story would be, hey, this is our Series B. We really want to get 20 million, like a big amount that we actually don't need to survive because we're already self-funded. We can then use all of this for growth. So this is only growth capital, and that's what typically investors want to see when they invest in a Series B stage company, which usually after not even 2 years on the market is not the case. But I think if we can achieve that, then we should also be able to get there.
There will be certainly enough tasks on your to-do list, so that's a very exciting future ahead of you. Before we wrap up today's episode, I have some rapid-fire questions for you.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
I either give you a short question or a selection of different options, and you have to explain or make a choice with one sentence as an answer. Mm-hmm. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Do you invest daily, weekly, or monthly?
Weekly. Because daily is kind of hard with most banks. Most banks don't have daily recurring orders.
True.
You could work around this with having every day setting up a weekly savings plan, but weekly is actually enough. And the stats also show that from a cost average point of view, the shorter the time frame, the better. So daily would actually be better, but it's not a big difference between daily and weekly. It's a bigger difference between weekly and monthly. So weekly is definitely my choice.
Cool. How many hours of sleep did you get last night?
Last night, it was actually probably not too much. Well, probably 6 to 7 hours. I try to aim for 8 hours.
Nice. Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin.
That's an easy choice.
No more comments.
Yeah. What was your summer job as a teenager?
I had several ones. I worked, for example, in a kitchen. Like in a restaurant, in the kitchen, just the classic the dishwasher career, basically. Nice. I did dishwashing a lot, and for one summer I remember that one. That was hard. I worked in a meat factory. How do you call that? So where chickens got from slaughtering. So chickens got delivered and then slaughtered in this factory, and there were people who cut the whole pieces and stuff. And I was in packaging department, so I would package the chicken wings and the chicken legs and all that kind of stuff.
That sounds very intense.
Yeah, it was intense and not very well paid. But and special people you can imagine working there. But it was also a good experience in hindsight.
Will you ever, or do you already invest in any stocks or startups?
I'm kind of getting started with this, yes. So as I said before, I was always interested in investing and trading in stocks, but I never really had the money. So, but now that I'm also earning a salary, I get into third pillar, just having a high stock amount there. Also, 80% of my third pillar is in stocks. And then I also have an own portfolio, a small-ish one, where I do some stock pickings just to do, because it's fun. And I also start in some ETFs, put some money into ETFs. Beside that, my money is basically in Bitcoin, and a little bit I also engage in this crypto venture capital thing. But this is really the smallest part, almost nothing anymore. Like, most of it is Bitcoin and then some different stock investings, but it's really on a low level so far.
Cool. What makes you happy despite a rising Bitcoin price?
Surfing.
Ooh, good one.
Surfing is I really need to find a way to live in Biarritz or Australia or somewhere where you can surf. I've been traveling the whole world, all the continents to do surfing, and it's a big passion of mine.
Nice. And the last question for you, have you ever sold any Bitcoin after what you told us, after that first 10% gain? Have you ever sold any Bitcoin since then?
Yes, smaller positions. So I always bought more than I sold, but I have been at points where I just needed some cash, and then for bigger stuff that I needed to buy or whatever, and then I sold some of the Bitcoin, but never in terms of like trading. So I never thought, oh, this is the peak, I'm gonna sell, because in my opinion, there's no other asset that is kind of valuable in the long run to store your money in. So there's no point in trading Bitcoin to something else. Yeah. So as long as I can stay in Bitcoin, I stay in Bitcoin. But sometimes I have the urgency, or even out of convenience, because it's just Bitcoin is the easiest asset to sell. It takes longer to sell, stocks and then get it from your portfolio to your bank account than just within a couple of clicks. I can sell now some Bitcoins, and I get same day or latest tomorrow, I get it directly to my bank account again. So that's why I sold some Bitcoin here and there, but not for trading reasons.
Cool. Julian, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for stopping by, and all the best. Lots of success with everything that you're tackling in the near future.
Thank you very much. It was an amazing, inspirational, as usual, conversation, and keep going with what you do, Sylvan. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
This episode was brought to you by Swisspreneurs' main partner, Clara Business, the digital all-in-one solution for small businesses. Managing internal processes manually and on paper wastes an incredible amount of time. That's why Clara digitizes everything, allowing you to focus on what really matters, your core business. Go to clara.ch to find out how your business administration can be simpler, faster, and more efficient. Again, that's clara.ch.